Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Spooktober episode of We Watch Shudder. My name is JD. Who's here with me?
It's Michelle.
That's right. It's always Michelle, guys. We're here on We Watch Shudder talking about Shudder, which we watch, hence the title. Michelle, what are we doing here in Spooktober? What's that all about?
In Spooktober, we decided to put out one episode every day.
Just
like how you and I always watch a horror movie every day in October.
Yes.
Now we get to let our listeners listen to us talk about a horror movie, which is not the same. But hopefully it's still a treat.
It fits the mold, I think. It gets in there with the concept really well. I do want to send a shout out, as I have periodically, to kind of lifted the idea. My buddies Marlon and Jack and Leanne did this with the podcast last year, and I was like, oh, that's a really good idea. And then we started this Shudder thing, and we got that nice little niche audience of Shudder fans and Shudder movies, and I was like, hey, we should borrow that idea, and here we are. I
didn't know the origin. I just watch a lot of movies.
Is this the first time I've mentioned that? I feel terrible.
Yep.
I'll have to make sure to mention it in the episodes leading up. I thought for sure I had said something about that at some point. Jesus, JD. For those of you who are wondering what's happening, it's August as we record this. We definitely weren't going to just record a new podcast episode every day in October, which, by the way, I learned from Marlon and Jack and Leanne on Huntsville Home Video for Hell's Wells that they tried to do one basically every day for 30 consecutive days, and oh man,
that sounds awful.
It definitely produced some fun results. It's worth going back to listen to, by the way. That podcast is called Huntsville Home Video. They teamed up with my buddy Marlon Wells, and that's why they called it Hell's Wells. And they did 30 movies in 30 days for October last year. Check it out if you like podcasts. But anyway, got off track there because that's what I do. I ramble about all sorts of things. Michelle, what's the movie we're talking about this time?
We are talking about the Amusement Park.
The Amusement Park. Directed by who? Directed by who, Michelle?
George A. Romero. He's a little lesser known filmmaker. He really
made
likes
a couple
zombies.
Of things. Yeah.
That's about all I remember.
Right. By the way, if you go to the Shudder website to watch the Amusement Park, it tells you that this movie is from 2021, and that is not the case. That's when it was released. Because it had been lost for years and years and years and years. I believe it's from like 1973. Is when this movie was made. Anyway, I'm going to read you the summary, and oh man, deep breaths, Michelle. This is a long one.
Yep, I'll be napping. Wake me when you're done.
The Amusement Park, directed by George A. Romero. Recently discovered and restored 46 years after its completion, George A. Romero's The Amusement Park stars Martin's Lincoln Maisel as an elderly man who finds himself disoriented and increasingly isolated as the pains, tragedies, and humiliations of aging in America are manifested through roller coasters and chaotic crowds. Commissioned by the Lutheran Society, the film is perhaps Romero's wildest and most imaginative movie, an allegory about the nightmarish realities of growing older and an alluring snapshot of the filmmaker's early artistic capacity and style. This lost film was restored in 4K by Indie Collect in New York City. A Shudder exclusive. Michelle, wake up.
Thank you. Okay, I'm up. I'm ready.
Tell us, Michelle, your spoiler-free thoughts on George A. Romero's The Amusement Park.
This is more of a PSA than a movie, so it's kind of hard to rate a PSA. I'm not going to say that I wish it had stayed lost.
Wow.
But no, I don't hate it that much. I just could not resist saying that. There are a lot of things that are just eye-rolly about it, though, and there's some stuff that's good. I'm glad they gave us an introduction and told me why I should care about these people, because I don't think if they had just started the film off that I would have cared, but I'm glad that they explain this is a message, and this is about aging, and everybody's a volunteer, and that's why they're not very good actors. And they tell us that. And so I'm glad that I knew ahead of time, like, you're in for a treat, kind of like a butterscotch treat, the hard candies that were all created at the same time and now live in every grandparent's home in a little bowl on the coffee table. This movie is getting a 3.25, and I think that's generous.
All right. So I didn't even know this movie existed until it popped up on Shudder, and I know, I've seen Season of the Witch, I've seen Martin, but rightfully so, like they say, the movie was lost for 46 years. It's barely a feature. It comes in at 53 minutes, and when you take the intro and the closing bits off of it, it really feels like this would have been an hour. Like it comes in like 45 minutes or so. You add in some commercials. Oh, this is an hour long made for TV movie, like after school special about old people. It's pretty obvious what the movie is trying to say. It's interesting that you say that you don't think you would have really understood what was going on without that introductory piece.
I wouldn't have cared.
Oh, okay. I see.
I'm a little more lenient because I know that they're volunteers.
Okay, yeah. So it's pretty obvious that this movie is about, getting old in America sucks. And it's very, you can definitely tell that they made this movie in 3 days with a bunch of amateur performers alongside a couple of professionals. I'm going 2.5 skulls on the amusement park.
Okay, so that brings us to 2.875 skulls out of 5 for the amusement park.
So what do we do next, huh?
I mean, now I think we have to get into our spoiler section, although I think we could just skip it, but we won't. We'll talk about the amusement park.
Yeah. So if you want to go see it without any spoilers at all, what do they do now, Michelle?
They pause the podcast and then they come back. They don't pause it forever. They don't stop it. They come back.
Right.
Come back. Come back after you watch it. Please we are very needy.
Please come back like that little girl when he's telling her this story. Man, I sure hope you hit that pause button already.
And they're gone. Okay, now we can talk about it.
Yeah, so like that, first of all, that incredibly wordy summary from the Shudder website basically tells you almost everything you need to know about this movie. Mm-hmm. The movie is just a really straightforward metaphor about an old man who is just dealing with getting older and how the world doesn't accommodate itself to aging people, especially in American culture. I thought the big finish was like they don't even try to hide it. Like, you know exactly what's happening from the very beginning. Mm-hmm. You know that the two guys in the room are the same person, just at different ends of the spectrum. It's a very obviously told story. It's very easy to understand. Like, it definitely feels like something where they had more of a goal in mind through the Lutheran Society, and using this, like you said, as more of like, we could show this to kids in schools on one of their weird film strip days, right alongside Hemo the Magnificent and other movies about growing up. And I don't know. It's interesting as an artifact of film history, but and it's for a movie that was put together with a bunch of amateurs in 3 days, it's okay, but it's once you've seen it, I don't feel like it's going to stick around with anybody very long, and it's just more a novelty of film history than anything else.
Yeah, no, I think that's pretty fair. It is, like I said, more of a PSA. It's not so much a movie, so there's not a lot to enjoy about watching it. Nothing stands out as super great. Yeah. It's just kind of showing you things. It's very foreboding and makes you upset because his introduction is just, remember, one day you will be old. And it's like, thanks. Yeah. Cool. Yeah. And then he's like, this is what's going to happen to you. It's not any indication of how we can prevent that happening. It says this always happens. So it's like, even if these people are nice, your life is going to suck one day. It's essentially the message of this movie. It's the scariest thing Romero made, for sure.
And it definitely explains a lot of why it was lost for 46 years, because apparently I did a little bit of looking into it, and apparently Lutheran Society saw it and they were like, okay, we totally get what you did here, but man, that's kind of way darker than we were really shooting for. So we're just gonna call that one a wash and set it aside. Go ahead.
There's a lot that the points it tries to make are very dumb, and there's one that in particular irritated me, where the old man, whose name I have forgotten, and it doesn't matter, so I won't go look it up. But the old man from this is in the bumper cars, which symbolize real cars, and an old lady runs into another person in a car, and she's trying to say that guy was at fault, and the old man is trying to say, yeah, that other guy was at fault, but nobody listens to them because they're old, and the old man should have been wearing his glasses. And the lady was totally at fault. She did not maintain a safe following distance. Yes, he should have been wearing his glasses while driving. Like, they're at fault. Even the point you're trying to make in your stupid movie are wrong. They're bad. She was at fault. Do you not watch Judge Judy? You have to maintain a safe following distance. If somebody rear ends another person, 99% of the time it's their fault. They could slam on the brakes and do a U-turn, and it's your fault.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
it just irritated me.
It's just it's again, it's more interesting just for what it is in movie history and in George Romero's context. Otherwise, I don't see any reason at all to make it a point to go out of your way to see this, unless you're just a real completist or really sort of tied in with movie history and that sort of stuff. It might be worth your time to see it once, but it's just more a novelty than anything.
There's a scene where he is trying to carry home his groceries, and he has too many groceries, and he can't carry them all, so he just takes out crackers. Why is that a symbolism for a problem that only old people have? What does that even mean? We give them too much and they can't handle it? That's literally what you're saying.
Right, and it also comes shortly after the sequence where he specifically talks about how he's got to be really careful about his budgeting because he only has so much money. And then he's just like, oh, he's got like three gigantic. Yeah, it's like the problem is he's got too many things and he can't carry them. Look, having too many things to be more things than you can carry yourself is a problem you can run into at any age. That's not something that's specific to being an old person. It's just it's
not well thought out.
It's just there, guys.
Don't talk to other people's children and you won't be called a creep. Just leave other people's kids alone. Don't beckon them towards you so that you can give them your crackers. What is wrong with you?
You're not wrong.
Anybody talking to somebody else's kid to give them crackers is going to be like upsetting their parents. Don't talk to the other people's children. Leave them alone.
Yeah, absolutely.
Leave them alone. This movie just irritated me. But I like the loop it does, the beginning and the ending, where, it's the same guy, but now he hates being outside. And I get that because I hate being outside. So, like, I understand it. But I was very mad.
I think here's what I would say. I think there is a much better movie in this idea. Like, I think if they had actually, like, put some time and effort and production into it, really fleshed out the script and really developed it, and I feel like this idea could have been a really good movie. It just is very obviously a thing that was thrown together on the quick in 3 or 4 days with no budget whatsoever.
Yeah, and it just makes you feel bad, but it also says there's nothing you can do to prevent this from happening.
Yeah,
there's no message of like treat them nicer.
No, it's just like awful. When you get old, the world is shit. That's that's the whole message of the amusement park.
I have nothing else to add.
I don't either. Say goodnight, Michelle.
Good night, Michelle.